Hello, hello. It looks like we already have a bunch of people here, so let's start. So last week we talked about empty system addresses for the Denkun hard fork. I'm not exactly sure what the conclusion was. I suppose I wrote it there because we had to talk about it, but I don't quite remember. Was there like some research that needed to be done or something maybe? I take that as a no then. I guess we can skip that one. Do we have news about DevNet? We were last week we said within that it would happen this week probably. Do we have progress on that?
Yeah, I think DevNet finally launched it, and we got in recent configuration, at least for Nethermind client. So we'll be preparing some configurations for the first one. Already been working on that, but just checking on little details there. So I guess there should be something at least for the end of this week or maybe the start of the next one.
All right. Yeah, so regarding the system transactions, I guess on Nethermind side, Marek thought it's empty and proposes to remove it on the first Denkun block if it's empty. Or the case where we send a few way to the system accounts. Is there any additional thoughts on this based on last week?
I think it's better to send a few way to the system account, or we can try it on Chiado first. And then if it goes smoothly, then do it on Gnosis Chain mainnet.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure if there's much more to say about Denkun. We're still looking at the max churn limit for uplines. Is it an EIP or spec consensus spec thing? PR. Yeah. So regarding Hive tests, I'm sorry, Lion, can you take over for 2 minutes?
Sorry, could you repeat?
He asked you to take over. I guess he had some emergency.
I see. Okay, so Hive test updates?
Yeah. Well, hello, guys. Basically, I restarted again with the migration of Cancun to the Cancun test for Hive. And I started to work on that, and I estimate that by the end of October, we will have all the test case, and I will update those timelines on 15 days. And of course, in the same way that we did in the withdrawals, as soon as we get tests, we are going to show them in the dashboard. So yeah. And about the question that Andrew raised the last week, the priority I think that will be the Cancun test, and after that I will work on the migration of the things that we have to make a PR to the current Hive test, so they run on upstream. Does that answer your question? Yeah, Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I think it's a good plan, and maybe Somnot can help you if need be.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. That will be all, the line. Thank you.
Could you drop the link to the dashboard here or in the chat?
Marcus, you are muted.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sure. Give me 1 second. And for some reason, it's giving me bad gateway. Probably something went off with the node. I will check it and will be up and running in a couple of hours.
Sure, no
But
problem.
yeah, you can put the link there.
Yeah, it's already. Oh yeah, well, it's already in the lock anyway.
Yeah, I will fix it later today. Nothing to worry. Should be something simple.
Sounds good. So do you have like a list of things that we can potentially upstream to the Hive test repo?
Not yet. I didn't look too much on that.
Okay. And I don't know if you talked about this with Igor already, but I had a call with him basically to ask if it's possible to start implementing or adding tests from pre-Chapella to our test unit as well. Basically to make sure that the previous versions and previous tests also run on Gnosis. I mean, let's maybe not spend 4 months on this, but add the tests that are fairly easy to add and don't require too many changes, because it might also be useful then now for Geth that is being worked on or whatever, and just making sure that clients like stay compatible. So just in general, have our test cases be a bit more robust would be nice. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that sounds good. I will speak with Igor later.
Awesome. All right. Regarding client updates, Nethermind, do you have anything new?
Well, I'm still exploring Shotker and waiting for the answer for some questions. And in the meantime, doing what I can. And besides Shotker, we probably will gonna release a new version of Nethermind later this week, and probably more info on that Malek can share.
No, nothing more from my side. Generally, yeah, we are waiting for DevNet 9, but I think Carlos already mentioned that he's preparing configs for Gnosis.
Right.
Oh, maybe one thing, maybe for later discussion, is 4788 address in context of Gnosis. So I'm not sure if I should start now or we will discuss it later.
What address did you say?
So yeah, because in mainnet we have new configuration for 4788 for DCIP, and this is address hard-coded in the client. And the thing is that there will be deployed contract that will work with this EIP. So the question mark here is, yeah, beacon roots address. The question mark is if we will, ideally it would be if we will have the same address, if possible, for Gnosis, but if not, then we should configure it. Yeah.
We won't have the same address, almost certainly.
Yes. So that is the thing. So Andrew, we have already this configuration in client, but if you do not have, then it means that you should add it probably.
It's not configurable in Erigon at the moment. We could make it configurable, but why do you think it will be different for Gnosis Chain?
I don't know. We will have to deploy it, right? And we can make it. This is the question. If we can make it as the same address, then all good, and we don't need to change it.
How does the deployment work in mainnet?
Yeah.
So there is still discussion, but let me find it.
Well, I guess someone just deployed it as a normal transaction, and that is.
Yes, but somehow it will be the same address for Gerli That is at least the expectation, right?
Yeah, I think because that transaction, it how I understand it, it then issues create two command. So and that create two is given a specific arguments, and thus the address is the same. So yeah, it's a technique to create a specific address for different chains on different chains.
Okay, so I guess we can deploy it in the same technique, and we should get the same address. Am I correct here?
What technique? Because I thought it's just the combination of the nonce of the sender address, right? So maybe the sender address had 0 nonce, was a new address on each network, and that's how it got deployed. So if we don't have a key for this address, I don't think we can deploy it on the same address.
Really? Okay. I was under impression that it's like that transaction, it creates a new contract using create two.
Yeah, but you can specify create to address? I don't think so. It just gets calculated based on the sender and its nonce, right?
Yeah, I think is it not one of those things where you can calculate a signature for one specific sender that is then based on the signature you're creating, and not the other way around, something like that. So no one has actually the key to this address.
Yeah, I don't quite remember exactly the thing, but for sure it's not the nonce, because people can redeploy the same contract at the same address several times. I think it's the hash of the contract, and there's something else. But for sure, yeah, it's repeatable. And I know, for example, on mainnet, Matt is currently, I think the term is mining. He's looking for the right address, so it's not a problem. We should be able to create it at the same address.
Yeah, it's probably because it uses create two, which does not depend on nonce.
Yeah, exactly.
But worst case, you can also just add it to the Genesis JS. I mean, hard code it in the Genesis file, right?
Yes, exactly. So not big issue. Just we have to agree, and we have to deploy it one day. Because generally, I guess we want to go with the same contract as on mainnet.
Yeah, if I may express a preference, I would prefer have the regular create two thing than having it done via the spec, the chain spec, because I don't support that. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
Sounds like you volunteered for deploying it then.
Okay, yeah, I can have a look for sure.
Perfect. Erigon, any news?
No specific news.
Okay. Yes, you.
Yes, several things. So the first one is, yeah, I found the problem thanks to a lot of people. So thank you for everybody who helped. Yeah, Somnat is the one who tipped me off on what the real problem was. When I imported all the contracts, one of them was not, well, I assume more than one of them, but at least one that was extremely important was not properly imported, so it would not execute it. And I guess the contract was updating the state. So that confirms everything I was saying last time. It's not an address that is missing. It's not an address that is deleted. It's an address that is added. But yeah, so I've been able to sync about 145,000 blocks. One thing I didn't notice before, but now do, is that yeah, it's much harder to. It's much longer to full sync the chain because there's many more blocks. But yeah, so what happened is that after a few, like 145,000 blocks, I got an invalid block because the gas usage was wrong. So the gas usage from Geth is higher than what is reported in the block. So now I need to trace. I did use some API that Gateway gave me to dump the traces from Erigon, but I still need to regenerate the state because, of course, the state is damaged and it takes like 14 hours to regenerate. So yeah, it's currently running. And when it's done, I'm going to trace the execution of that specific transaction and compare the traces. I assume, I mean, my theory right now, but it needs to be confirmed, is that I know there are some contracts that got rewritten, so I think that would be it, because I don't know what else would be wrong. I mean, we'll find out. And so I had a question about this because, of course, I hadn't saved the result of my import, and I should do that. And the question I had is, would there be some S3 bucket somewhere that I could upload the intermediate product so that when something fails, I don't have to re-import for 14 hours? Yeah, that would be cool. I don't know if someone has like if Gnosis has a repository
Yeah,
for
of
large
course.
files.
We'll set that up for you. No worries.
Okay, excellent. And while the import is running, I implemented the withdrawal contract so that I can go through the transition when I get there. I had to rebase because, of course, the base I had was before Shanghai. So I had to rebase, and I created a PR already, but there are some issues that I found. So I'm ironing out the last few wrinkles. And when this is done, well, I'll have to wait for the import to finish and try this new branch. Yep, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Sounds like some good progress. I also had the transactional was failing here. Oops. So maybe there was something on that back, I don't know. We'll see. All right. Is anyone from Gateway here? Nope. All right. Yeah, so then there's another subject which we quickly talked about on the Telegram group. But basically, so there's those Aura contracts. We're still using the reward contract for the bridges. So that's the contract that is called after, I think, each block or something. That mints new XDAI natively if a bridge operation went through, basically. What's okay? I guess you were writing in a terminal or something. And basically, those contracts are still doing a bunch of stuff, like I don't know, updating validators, like if they I mean, not really propose. I'm not exactly sure what terminology was, but like to accrue penalties and things like that on the Aura part. And basically, it's just a bunch of useless codes that updates state and just gets executed for nothing. And yeah, I'm having a look at how we could clean this up and then potentially upgrade those contracts so that we only execute the like reward contract part, meaning only mint the XDAI instead of having all the useless logic still running for no apparent reason. Yeah, go ahead.
So as far as I remember, firstly, those contracts should be upgradable themselves. And if this is a problem, I think we have a way of doing a hard fork, right? And point to another contract from some block.
Right. So they are all proxy contracts, but I don't know who has the keys to them. I don't know if we have them. So that might be one issue, but yeah, in practice, they are upgradable. I mean, in theory.
Yeah, and like I said, if that would be a problem, we can just from block number X doing some hard fork point to another contract, right?
Yep, exactly. But there's still a bit of research that has to go. I mean, I don't know exactly how this works with the clients. I found some contracts that are getting executed and maybe don't need to be. So I guess this is something we should talk about with, well, who would be the most knowledgeable for Aura part? I mean, contracts and interactions.
how they internally interact, I would say someone from POA.
Right. Which, I mean, I don't know if we know someone from POA.
I would say Jorge or Łukasz.
I know how Node interacts with them, but I don't really know the internal interactions between contracts.
But I remember that Jorge had been exploring this topic, and for some reason he gave up, and I think he had reason. So let me ask him about his opinion, and I will, I don't know, post it on Telegram or somewhere.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm starting to get a fairly good understanding of how the contracts interact between them. It's quite complicated, and most of it makes no sense at this point anymore because it's all just updating validators, giving rewards, whatever. It's just stuff we don't use anymore. But my question was more, I guess, on Nethermind side, for example, which functions, which system calls basically happen from Nethermind to those contracts.
Oh, it's only block reward, and now there's withdrawal, and those are the only two.
Okay.
And not consensus critical transaction priority?
Yes, but that's on the block builder level and not during the actual execution.
Yes. I said that it's not consensus critical.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of those contracts are just called by the rewards, function call. So this can basically just be removed and that's it, from my understanding at least. But of course, this will be tested a lot. But yeah, we'll see down the road. But yeah, it looks like at least this should be fairly. A lot can be removed without impacting anything. But I will create a pull request for this, or maybe on a new repo or whatever, so that this is clear. All right, and that's, I guess, it from my side. Are there any questions or comments? All right. Well, in this case, thanks for joining. See you next week. And yeah, Mike. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, just a last minute comment. So I was looking at the parameters for create 2, and indeed, you do not have the nonce, but you do have the sender address. So that might be a problem to deliver it at the exact same location. But I just asked Matt which address he was going to be deployed from. So we'll see what he says.
So we would have to have ownership of this address to deploy on the same address, basically.
Exactly.
So could we craft a transaction where the signature is some known pattern in a way that no one knows the sender address, but the transaction is executable, and then you only need to fund the address that you derive from the signature. That way, there can be a public payload that anyone can deploy in any network.
If I understand correctly, no, because then that would mean that you would be able to sign and on behalf of someone and without their private key.
Yes, right. You sign on behalf of an address that no one controls.
Yeah, but you can do that only for one very specific transaction, and you can't do it for other transactions, right? You just craft a transaction for which you find a valid signature, and then based on that signature, you derive the sender, basically.
Exactly. That way, you have a transaction that is not owned by anyone that you can deploy in any network.
Yeah, I still don't think that's possible, but I've got to give it more thought.
I've seen this trick done in the past for exactly this purpose,
Really?
to deploy in multi networks.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'd be interested in finding out how they did it.
But this is already a signed transaction, right? Can we just execute this?
But isn't that signed with the mainnet fork ID?
Right, yeah, right.
Yeah, and you have cross-chain attack prevention, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's the problem now.
Okay, then maybe, well, it has to be possible because if not, we'll see. I guess, Guillaume, you wanted to find this out or something, or?
Yeah, I mean, let me ask Matt what, I asked a couple questions to Matt. Let's see what he says.
Perfect, thank you. Marek, you have your hand up?
Yes, because I just had a chat with Jorge and about our removal, and he said that our removal means removing reward mechanism, which is important for minting DAI and for bridge functionality. So if we remove it, then we need to think about another way to solve it. And Martin had some ideas at first, but then he said that it was no longer important for him. That is what Jorge shared with me. And without alternative way of minting DAI from the bridge, we cannot remove our own. And Jorge has just joined.
Right. I was not suggesting to remove everything and not call it contract anymore. I was just suggesting. Okay, I don't remember how the function was called now because it was. So basically, where does this happen? I don't quite here. I think no, not this one. Anyway, so basically, this contract calls a bunch of other ones. That are basically right. It's the reward function. So this is the one that in the end will mint some XDAI, which is nice. But then there's a bunch of functions like this one or this entire block. I think that does nothing except like validating. Validator related things. And for example, here one of the first functions. This one, for example, calls another contract, which calls then 10 different contracts indirectly. And this just doesn't, I mean, as the comment says, basically, check if there's a malicious validator and remove it if needed. This is not needed anymore, right? Because it's from the Aura validators and not the pre-post merge validators.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, to just sum it up, basically the idea is not to remove block reward contract, but to simplify it so it will use less gas and will not do garbage stuff inside.
Exactly. So basically just this mint native coins, which we'll keep, and the other stuff we just remove because it will make it, I mean, more efficient, of course, but also way easier to reason about because these contracts are quite complicated and call 1 million things, I mean, in all the directions. And yeah, just to simplify the thing, basically.
Yeah, so it means basically that we don't need hard fork and the option that we discussed.
Yes.
Removing is not longer considered. So it's clearly on Solidity contract side.
Exactly. Assuming that we have the private key for the proxy, upgradable proxy.
Or if we find another way to deal with this minting issue, then we could remove it potentially, but it's another discussion and probably not worth doing.
Yes. But yeah, anyways, I just created a pull request about this to remove everything we don't need, and then we can review it. I mean, it's not a priority. We can probably do it without a hard fork, so that should be fine. I will ask if we have the private key somewhere, but yeah. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I'd like to know that about the Beacon's root address deployment. I think the trick is to use a legacy transaction without chain ID, and then you calculate from its signature. You calculate the address. You send some funds to the address, and that's how you can achieve the same resulting address on multiple networks.
So I think we currently don't allow this kind of transactions to have actually defend from what you're saying, which would be a replay attack, right? Transaction replay attack. So yeah, so this is disabled on Nethermind right now. I wouldn't accept this transaction to the pool.
I think in Erigon it's still enabled.
Okay. I think it was like disabled on Geth like 2 or 3 years ago.
No, I think they actually well, that's a good thing. A good question. I think they disabled it in the transaction pool, but not in the. They still accept blocks with such transactions.
Yeah, we have to accept blocks because blocks are consensus, right? But we are also like disabled it on a transaction pool level.
Does it mean that we will have the same problem on even on mainnet stream? So to deploy it on Gerli, Sepolia, Haleski,
No,
and so on?
I expect Ethereum Foundation knows in the address that they are deploying from, so they can generate each transaction for each of those networks without a problem and get the same address.
Okay.
So we could ask them to generate one for us, right? Just generate a transaction that the address would be the same, and they own the key. They can use the key on the Gnosis and generate this kind of transaction and just sign it, and it's not a big deal. Just we cannot do it ourselves. So that's a dependency, and I don't know if we want to have this dependency.
Well, if we can't have the same address, we just make it configurable. It's not a big deal.
I agree. I think it's already configurable for us.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and it means also, Marcus, for you that you need to be able to configure it on Hive test side.
All right. That sounds like a fairly clear path. So if we can do this transaction without the keys, then sure. If not, we'll just change the address and that's fine. Awesome. And then, so this thing about legacy transactions and the fact that it might still be enabled in Erigon, is that a fact? Because if so, then it might be a problem, right?
I need to check. Maybe it's not enabled in our transaction pool. I'm not sure.
Because then we could create blocks on Erigon that might not have the right consensus with Nethermind, right?
No. Well, I think, but consensus-wise, it's not a problem because both Erigon and Nethermind still accept them in blocks, right? If you have a block with those transactions, what Lukasz has just said, that it's still accepted, right? In Nethermind.
With what exactly? With different chain?
So, do you still what Geth did? They disabled legacy transactions in their transaction pool, but they still accept blocks with legacy transactions. And Erigon does the same. So, does Nethermind still accept legacy transactions?
I think we still accept legacy transaction in transaction pool and in blocks. So, yeah, you can send them. I think Lukasz meant something about chain ID, but
sorry, I meant legacy transactions without chain ID. So yeah, those.
Okay. So I'm not sure about that, but yeah, you are right. Probably on consensus level, it's not the issue, but it might be on transaction pool.
So in theory, in any case, it would be possible, to execute one of those transactions as long as we validate it ourselves. I mean, create that block ourselves.
Yes, so we can potentially hack Erigon and Nethermind, or disable that restriction in the transaction pool, create a block. Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Might make things a bit complicated, but at least doable. But yeah, we'll see what Matt says, I guess, from the EF to Guillaume, and then we'll see. All right. Anything else? I'll take that as a no. Well, thank you guys for joining, and see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.
That's a wrap.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.